The Solidarity Fund's media and stakeholder briefing is currently underway virtually. It is the fund's first quarterly media briefing of 2022. This is expected to include an update of the fund's interventions and a look at their future. The Solidarity Fund was created in March 2020 in response to the COVID-19 pandemic in South Africa. It is a public benefit organization with a mandate to support the national health response, contribute to humanitarian relief efforts, and mobilize South Africans in the fight against COVID-19. The fund works with both government and business, but is independent of them. The Solidarity Fund is committed to creating impact across all of South Africa's 9 provinces through its ongoing work to manage and eventually contain the virus. Let's now take you live to that event.
Private healthcare sectors have evolved such that there is a much reduced need for interventions such as ours. The fund has played its part in helping to capacitate the national and the provincial healthcare system, and we believe that that system stands ready to tackle any future waves. We've reached a point where all organizations are realigning their response to COVID-19. It can also be argued that we are entering a more... Within the fund over the 2 years exists a wealth of learning and experience that must not be forgotten. And so the business entity of the fund will continue to exist in a state of dormancy with the expectation that it can remobilize rapidly and effectively should another overwhelming national crisis happen again. This is to preserve the legacy of the fund so that it can be built on in response to another calamity. The fund has proven itself as an important vehicle to encourage cooperation and unity in times of crisis. And although its immediate role has been fulfilled, this purpose continues. The Solidarity Fund's Chief Operating Officer, Dr. Nozipho Sangweni, will provide more detail on the process of closure over the next few months. She will be followed by the fund's Chief Executive, Thandi Nzimande, who will give a progress update. Thank you very much. Over to you, Ashraf. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Gloria Sorobi. So there you are. Just to confirm then, the Solidarity Fund, as you know it, would effectively shut down in September. There will be a phased shutdown, but as also been suggested, the actual organization, the infrastructure that has the capacity to be reactivated if and when there's a need for that. Now, I'm sure there'll be many questions that you want to ask, and do not forget, just put those questions right away in the chat group. And I know others will want to do interviews on the back of this conversation we have on your radio, television, and newsprint programs. But you certainly can connect with us later on. Let me then bring in then Dr. Nozipho Sangweni, who is the Solidarity Fund CEO, and she'll explain a little bit more about the phasing to closure from where we are now to how we're going to get there. Dr. Sangweni, go ahead.
Nozipho, please unmute.
Good morning, everyone. And thank you, Ashraf, and our chair, Gloria Sorobi, for explaining the what and the why of the Solidarity Fund and its upcoming closure. Now I will talk to the how of the next few months. In approaching the closure of the fund, we have established principles and set up guardrails to ensure that we achieve the desired outcome. But while there is the possibility that some minor details of this could change during this unprecedented process, we do have fundamental principles in place as endorsed by the board. As we wrap up the current activities, we need to keep the momentum, the energy, and the commitment that has characterized our activities thus far. Delivering impact and making a difference in the lives of South Africans remains our priority. and our pillar leads and their teams will continue to fulfill their responsibilities as they close out all our projects. To manage the closure, we have established a closure project office that reports directly to the CEO. It will oversee the wrapping up process, guided by a specific timeline, while ensuring the business as usual activities continue. There are 3 aspects to the wrapping up of the fund that we will be working through in the next few months on parallel timelines. The first is the wrapping up of existing projects. We need to ensure that the fund and its activities as they currently stand are brought to conclusion such that the fund enters the dormant state with a clean slate. The second is recording and preserving the legacy of the fund through documentation. The third and final aspect is setting the Solidarity Fund up for a successful remobilization should the circumstances for remobilization present themselves. There is an established timeline for all activities with the aim of achieving a dormant state by the end of September 2022. In order to wrap up our current Solidarity Fund activities, the following will happen. No further fundraising will take place, and no new interventions or applications for funding will be considered. Remaining funds will be allocated to proposals that are already in the system. The discipline and rigor on maintaining high impact, low cost implementation will remain. The fund will retain a minimum balance of 15 million rand to enable it to hit the ground running when it is reactivated for another calamity. External audits for the 2022 and 2023 financial periods, together with Solidarity Fund impact and closeout reports, will follow. It is anticipated that by September, the fund as it currently manifests will no longer exist. At the same time, as we are wrapping up the fund, we will be cementing our legacy. The fund is a unique but complicated entity. While it was established in record time, laying the groundwork for governance that is above reproach, accountability and transparency, not only for ourselves, but our partners, was a complex process, as was laying down processes and procedures that would enable a rapid, effective response. That work is done, as has the establishment of a brand that is respected and trusted both globally and here at home. This work is our legacy. It is our country's legacy, along with all the intellectual and experiential learnings that have occurred over the last 2 years. It is our responsibility to preserve all this for the benefit of society in general. This preservation will include the documentation of processes, structures, and standard operating procedures that have been tried and tested and can act as a springboard for any future action. The fund will serve as a case study for its future self and for any other similar entity that may arise. We will ask and answer questions such as, if you want to act optimally, what is the operational model? How do you keep it low cost? How do you staff it? What systems must be in place for a rapid response vehicle of this nature? And more. This will ensure that the Solidarity Fund doesn't just live on intellectually, but, should it be needed, it can live on practically, performing its duties in future. We don't know exactly what form another crisis may take, but we have in the fund a blueprint for an organization that can step in and assist at a national level to alleviate the strain on government, business, and NGO resources and the impact on society. An organization that is able to bring effective, impactful additionality to a national effort. The final phase of our closure process is to establish a dormant Solidarity Fund that will operate with minimal activity to meet its legal and regulatory requirements and ready to respond to a future disaster that requires its support. It will consist of a slimmed-down board, with the initial members being drawn from the existing board. Their duties will be to maintain the fund as a viable organization until such time as it is needed again, after which its duties will include remobilizing, capacitating, and forming the partnerships needed to respond to a future crisis. What I've outlined today is just an overview of what will happen in the next few months. There's a lot of work to do and many details still to be ironed out. But throughout this process, the Solidarity Fund will complete and close out the existing programs with the same dedication and attention we have shown in the last 2 years. And we will apply that commitment to creating a legacy that aptly reflects the nature of solidarity, cooperation, and the can-do attitude that our stakeholders, partners, and volunteers have shown. Thank you.
Well, there you are. Thank you so much, Dr. Nozipho Sangweni, the COO of the Solidarity Fund. And they are picking up from the conversation from Gloria Sorobi announcing the closure in September, ultimately, of the Solidarity Fund. Some more nuts and bolts, including the legacy part, but very important, the need or the capacity in this case here to reactivate. Okay, don't forget, ask those questions. You can post them right now in the chat group, particularly from the members of the media, right? Let's move on then. So, Nozipho spoke about the how, a little bit more of the how and reflection in terms of the activities up to now comes from Thandi Nzimande, who's the CEO of the Solidarity Fund. Thandi, you can go ahead.
Thank you, Ashraf. Good morning, everyone. We are indeed looking to the last lap. As Nozipho expressed in her presentation, the business as usual, running and implementation of our remaining interventions remains a priority. We are acutely aware of the importance of every one of our interventions to the individuals and communities that they are designed to serve. They are why we are here. In the last 6 months, we have focused on existing programs with a limited number of new programs having started. Many of our existing interventions have come to fruition or been extended, receiving additional funding. I will talk in more detail on those shortly. As of the 16th of March, 2022, just under 3.8 billion in funding has been raised in the COVID related relief funding.
All right, the Solidarity Fund's first quarterly media briefing of 2022. Well, this included an update on the fund's intervention and a look at their future. Remember that this fund was created in March 2022 to deal with the COVID-19 pandemic in South Africa. Let's now cross to KwaZulu-Natal for reaction to yesterday's announcement by the president to recognize King-elect Misuzulu Kabheka Zulu. All right, to understand that the link is not yet established to that media briefing, we'll definitely take that link up as soon as they are ready.